Hey, thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. And by the way, if you're joining us on Facebook, we will take your questions if you've got any about the upcoming forecast. Now, we're going to see a whole lot of this in the forecast, which is great news compared to what we saw yesterday. And yes, of course, we did have some peaks of sunshine yesterday. The issue, obviously, was all the wind, and that wind is long gone. Thankfully, out into the Midwest after what a day we had back here on your Wednesday. But today, it's much more tranquil, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of many of you that we're happy to see that. Now, it's breezy, not windy. We do have some mountain snow to talk about tonight and an overall mild forecast. But first things first, let's just make sure those winds are over and done with, right? Yeah, still got some gusts in some cases, up to maybe 30, 40 miles an hour in the eastern plains, but compared to those 90, 100 plus mile an hour gusts that we saw yesterday in some spots, well, I'm sure we'll gladly take this compared to what we saw again yesterday. Now, those winds, generally speaking, do stay pretty tranquil for us. A few spots could pick up some of those gusts getting into the 25, maybe 30 mile an hour range as we get later on through tonight. And the foothills, as usual, stay a little bit blustery as well. But for, again, 90% of us, we're not talking about winds that you'll probably classify as just breezy. And again, the far eastern plains get out into, say, Baca County, north here into Lamar, and on up into Burlington. That's where a few spots, again, might be a little bit windy, 30, 40 mile an hour winds at most. Closer look in here at the Front Range. Again, we're generally speaking talking about pretty comfortable winds, at least certainly compared to what we saw yesterday. Current temperatures, a lot of 40s and 50s for us along the eastern plains. Mountains still stuck in the 20s, 30s, and for the typically cold Gunnison Valley, 12 degrees right now, and not going to warm up too much more than that. Again, that's those typically colder valley floors where that cold air, it's heavier, it drains down into those valley floors, and it's really hard to get rid of. Today, though, 53 for us here into Denver, mostly sunny skies, and again, breezy, not windy, so maybe a little bit rattled from what we saw yesterday, but again, we're not going to see winds like what we saw yesterday, hopefully anytime soon, and certainly nothing like that in the foreseeable future. Now, what we do have in the foreseeable future is some snow as you get into the northern mountains. This would be for the Elkhead, the Park, the Flat Top Mountains of north central Colorado. So Steamboat Springs going to be pretty favored to get some decent snow out of this, 4 to 10 inches of snow. And if you're heading up over, say, Rabbit Ears Pass or Berthoud Pass, could be a slick drive for us on Highway 40 as we get after dark tonight with 4 to 10 inches of snow, coupled with some blustery conditions out that way. It's all in association with this storm that's leading some snow for us into Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City looking at 1 to 3 inches of snow today. The Benches and the Wasatch Front maybe closer to about 2 to 6 inches worth of snow. That same system going to spin its way east and leave some of that snow for us into northern Colorado later on tonight. So here's how it kind of times on out. Notice the timing. By about sunset, we'll see those first flakes start to fly into far northwestern Colorado. Again, the flat tops, the Elkheads, seeing those first flakes flying. Those will push south and east. I-70 does see some snow. The majority of the snow stays to the north of I-70, but we do see some, say, in Vail Pass, the Eisenhower Tunnel. So keep that in mind if you're driving that way tonight after dark tonight. We will see some of that snow on I-70. And again, the snow gets a little heavier as you head north on Highway 40 out there by, say, Kremling, Hayden, and certainly on up as you get into Steamboat Springs. Then it clears on out, and it's going to stay snow-free basically statewide through the upcoming weekend. But not before, as I mentioned, a few inches of snow, and even the I-70 mountains getting on some of the action as well. 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inches worth of snow possible for us in the Summit County mountains, as well as west into the West Elks out by, say, Aspen Snowmass. For tomorrow, 43 for us into Denver. We do get a weak front that accompanies that. That'll drop those temperatures for your day tomorrow. No snow for us here into the Denver metro area. You got to get onto the other side of the Continental Divide to find any sort of snow for us out there. Again, you got to get probably up by Berthoud Pass and points west, Idaho Springs points west, seeing some of that snow. But tomorrow, much chillier for us here into Denver. And it might feel cold, but this is actually our average high for this time of year. So today, we're at 53 degrees. That's close to about 10 degrees above the norm. For tomorrow, 43 degrees. That's right where we should be with an average high of 44 for us into Denver. But the weekend, if you're looking for warmer temperatures, 47 for us by your Saturday. It's a little bit warmer than average. And then by your Sunday, and that home Broncos game, Broncos-Bengals, of course, 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and it looks absolutely magnificent with a high near 60 degrees for us on your Sunday, and it'll stay near 60 as we head over the next few days. Our next chance for any sort of widespread precipitation along the Front Range, you're going to have to wait probably until next next Thursday, next Friday. That would be kind of right before Christmas, where we have that chance for some of that chance for any sort of snow. And by the way, taking your comments and your questions, we've got one from Danielle, and looks like here Danielle's got a question about how travel might be over the mountains for Christmas. Now, it's a little bit early here, Danielle, so just want to give you that little bit of a heads up. But the further west you go in Colorado, it looks like we could be dealing with some snow as we get into the mountains on Christmas Eve. And maybe here, notice that sorry, I'm going to get properly point to it. Thursday, we have some of those clouds working their way in. That's out ahead of our next probably bigger system. So Thursday, Friday, and perhaps into Christmas, we could be looking at some snow up into the mountains. Now, still got to fine-tune those forecasts. We are talking a week plus out at this point, so just keep that in mind. But I would say there's at least a chance you're dealing with some snow and some travel issues into the mountains the end of next week, and that does include the eve of Christmas Eve, the 23rd and the 24th. Of course, the 24th being Christmas Eve. And I believe that does it in terms of those comments and those questions. So appreciate all of you for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast. We're done. We're done with the wind. No more wind, at least for the foreseeable future, which is great news, and a bit of mountain snow for tonight. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Have a great rest of your day.